not take notes, this will be the perfect series for you to take notes. Before we get into the message, you guys can go ahead and turn to Song of Solomon. It will also be in your books, or your Bibles, your books, like I say it like it's a textbook. It might also look like this. It says Song of Songs. It could also be that. But we're going to be going through this book almost verse by verse. And if this is your first time, you picked a really fun one because we're talking about relationships. We're talking about dating, talking about marriage, talking about conflict, communication. This is the test. I need everybody, raise your right hand. I will be mature about this topic. I'm not joking. We have leaders almost everywhere. If you're cutting up about any of the stuff we're talking about, I will sit leaders with you. We're middle school, high school age. We should be able to have this conversation, okay? Because in addition to all of this stuff about dating and marriage and conflict, we're going to be talking about sex a little bit, okay? Look, you know how quiet it got? Did you hear how quiet it got? Oh! Check this out. We're going to start chapter 1, verse 1. We're not going to get there tonight. Tonight is all about attraction. And before we get into the message fully, I feel like I've said that 3 times already. But this message was actually the very message that I preached. If you were here in this youth ministry, you might not have been. But this was actually the very message that I preached. And then at the end of it, I proposed to my lovely now wife, Macy. I live this thing out, okay? No, I'm joking. But how many people here, you've had like a preschool or a kindergarten boyfriend or girlfriend? Obviously, you were going to get married, right? For sure. Probably some of you ladies might have even walked away and said, he proposed, I'm married. And all of your fathers were like, heck no, right? You ever been that? Because you don't have boyfriends or girlfriends in preschool. You have husbands and wives, and it's a very serious commitment, right? Very serious. Obviously, I'm joking, right? Because you guys are 14, 15, 16. Who's less than 14 in here? Younger, less than. I'm not talking right. Less than. See, obviously, those things didn't work out. I'm sure your youth leaders can also tell you. I know that I have. I've had relationships in childhood, in elementary school, middle school, high school. I've had relationships in college even, and it didn't work out, and I'm very glad that it didn't. And some of them were relationships in name alone, and they just weren't even right. But I always find it very interesting, this thing about relationships, love, marriage, because God has given these feelings. He's given us the feelings of romance, of love, of being able to care for a boyfriend or a girlfriend, a husband and a wife. He's given us this ability. So a lot of times we look at scripture and we look at our culture and we look at things like dating and marriage and sex and we look at all of it and it's like, oh man, we shouldn't talk about that. Oh man, I'm gonna run from that, right? If you're single or you're not married, you should run from it. But these feelings, we act as if they didn't already come from God, right? I mean, do you guys really think that God would give us marriage and give us love and give us attraction and all of these things and just like toss it to you like it's a grenade and go, have fun, don't kill yourself, right? Do you really think that that's the way that this works? I find it so interesting that the book of Song of Solomon is very censored in Christian churches. There's a lot of churches that don't talk about it. Who has never heard a message from the book of Song of Solomon before? Okay. If you've been here in this youth ministry from a couple of years ago, we did this and it's time to do it again. Because I think what's so interesting is that our silence on these matters basically make a statement to the world whether we like it or not. If the church is going to say nothing about love and sex and romance and the sanctity of marriage, God has something to say about it. So why are we not talking about it? So we're going to be diving into this book. We're going to read almost every verse, taking it verse by verse. And yeah, it might be a little awkward. And yeah, this might be something that is a little weird for you. And let me tell you, this is the first message that we have. Go home, if you haven't already, talk with your parents. And if this is something that you can't do or you don't want to do or they don't want you to do right now, we have small group material that we have. I haven't heard from any of your parents so far. So parents, if you're watching on YouTube or anything, please contact me to let me know. But talk with your families. If this isn't something that you feel comfortable doing, we're going in for the next 7 weeks on this book. And we have another set of material. If you don't feel like you can handle it or you're not at a spot where it's right, we'll send you out. And it's not that we hate you. It's not that whatever. It's just you guys can have something else to talk about. That's not this. But I do think it's important, especially if we're not talking about it. Because guess what? Are you hearing about this at school? Okay. If you go to a school, maybe you're homeschooled, right? If you go to a school, are you hearing about it? And I'm not talking about from your teachers. I'm not talking about it from academics. I'm talking about your friends talking about it. Yep. How many people have friends who are talking about these things, right? How many people are watching TV shows or watching movies and they're dealing with this kind of stuff, right? So why are we not talking about it? That is the heart of why we're doing this. You see, God made and designed all of this. He wired us for relationships. And he's given us this book, Song of Solomon, Song of Songs. A lot of people like to read this book and say that it's a depiction of Jesus in the church, right? It's not. It's about a man. It's about a woman. It's about marriage. It's about love. It's about conflict. It's about dating. It's about all of these things, all of these concepts. Are we clear on what we're going to be diving into tonight? Cool. And again, if your parents have anything to say, I apologize first and foremost. And if you feel like you can't handle it or you don't want to or your parents don't want you to, more importantly, then that's fine. We'll have something else over these next few weeks because it's important that you're here. I don't want you just skipping out for the next 6 weeks. That's my little disclaimer. Let's go ahead and jump into verse 1. This is what it says. Starts off with a banger. This is her perspective. Solomon's Song of Songs. No, I'm just kidding. That's the first verse. Let him kiss me with the kisses of his mouth, for your love is more delightful than wine. You see, this couple is already married. And I'm going to take it verse by verse and we're going to break it down. It's going to go very slow, but hopefully it'll be good for you guys. They're already married here. So she's not saying anything inappropriate. She's not acting weird. This couple did things right. But now they're looking back on their marriage. They're looking back on the life that they've had. And now they're reminiscing on it. That's what this book is. So it says, your love is more delightful than wine. Pleasing is the fragrance of your perfumes. Your name is like the perfume poured out. No wonder the young women love you. The reason why this is so important is because men actually didn't take baths back then. Some of you guys don't do it now. Am I wrong? No, I'm joking. But so literally what they would do is they wouldn't take a bath and they would just pour a bunch of what the equivalent of Axe body spray and just cover a bunch of perfume and oils on themselves so that they could try to smell nice. Anybody ever tried to put Axe deodorant on when you don't shower? It doesn't mask it. Let me just tell you. You smell like berry flavored. I'm not even gonna go there. Not even gonna go there. You see, what she's saying though is not only he smells nice, but she's saying, man, you're really good looking as well. But what's more important is that next part where she said, your name is like perfume poured out. You see, the word character comes from the word charaso. It's a metal tool. It means to etch something. It means to etch something. It means that it won't go away. Basically, the reason why we get character from that word is because character means that it's something in your life that will never fade away. It's been etched into the very fabric of your being. So she says, may he kiss me with the kisses of his mouth, which means you're a great looking guy. But what she says is, actually what's better is your name. What's better is your character. What's better is who you are. His character, his love, his holiness, his honesty, his temperance, his morality, his flexibility, his ability to be a good listener. Hello, gentlemen, pay attention. Be a good listener to your girls, okay? How many ladies said amen? Come on, let's be real. Yep. This is the kind of guy that you want your son to be like. This is the kind of guy that you want your daughters to bring home. This is a man who is full of holiness. He is doing things the right way. But what she says is, yes, you're a good-looking guy. That's amazing. What I really love is your character. What I really love are the things that are etched into the very being of who you are. That's what I love about you. So let me tell you. Let me speak to the ladies here. Everybody say, ladies. Crazy. I can't believe I just did that. So listen. I'm glad Shannon got the reference. Ladies, you can marry a guy that's 6'2". You can marry a guy that has long, wavy, blonde hair. You can marry a guy who sings like Justin Bieber. Perfect blue eyes. Great body. Makes $100,000 a month and drives a Porsche. Drives a Tesla, right? Good on you, right? Because guess what? None of it matters. None of it matters. None of these things actually matter, because if he doesn't listen to you, if he's sharp, if he's pouty like a baby all the time, if he doesn't get his way, he stomps out of a room, if he doesn't open his heart to you to really love you, if he won't compliment you and always is trying to fight you, then the only thing that you've ever accomplished is earning yourself a little slice of hell. Being real. Because you can have all these amazing things on the outside. You can have a guy who looks perfect, a guy who seems perfect on the outside, a guy who's making a lot of money, providing for you financially and being able to take care of you in those regards. But if he's treating you like trash, all you're gonna do is you're just gonna want him off of you like a dirty shirt. Anybody ever been in nasty clothes before? There's no worse feeling, right? Anybody ever stepped in a puddle with a sock and it gets all in you? Come on, let's be real. Gross, right? If you marry someone like that who has no integrity, no virtue, that's gonna be your entire life. That's gonna be how you're feeling in your entire relationship. All you will ever feel is that feeling of like, I wish I could get out of this. And sometimes you can get into really bad relationships and not even know a way out. So marry yourself a man of virtue. And guys, be virtuous. Because let's be real. Being single's hard. How many people who are allowed to date can say being single's hard? Being single. Even if you're in a relationship, how many people know being single is hard? I get it. I understand it. I really do. But let me tell you something. Being lonely, being single is a lot better than being with somebody who's gonna treat you like dirt. Being frustrated, being angry, being sad, being upset, being in these spots where these guys are not treating you right. If you have somebody that you're dating, somebody that you end up marrying that does not have good character, I promise you it's gonna be a horrific situation for you. And I know what you're saying. What could be worse than being single? What could be worse than not having a good relationship? Let me tell you, being married, but being alone and having no hope because the person that you married has a horrible character is a lot worse than you being single. It's a lot worse. When you get married, there's a ring that gets placed on your finger, and the rest of your emotional peace for the rest of your life, yes, it's important, and yes, I'm using very important language, because the rest of your emotional peace, your mental health, if you will, is solely hinging on that person and God. When you get married, and when you put a ring on your finger, what you're saying is, you can have my heart. Obviously, God is in that, so he already has it and should have hers or his. But you're saying you have the rest of it. For the rest of my life, you have this. Being single might seem like it's horrific, might seem like it's the worst thing to ever happen. I get it. But being in a relationship with somebody with bad character is going to be way worse. So ladies, choose a man of good character. No immature boys. Talking about a man, somebody who would pray with you, that would lead you, that would be able to guard you and protect you. And because like I said, being married is like taking a loaded gun and actually putting it to your head, and your spouse's finger is on the trigger. I'm using very intense language. I get it. This is what is important in your relationships. So important. This is how you choose a mate. Don't base anything else on popularity or appearance or what they can do or how much money they make. Base it on godly character. You have to marry a person of great character. And listen, if you're in a relationship now, or maybe you're looking at somebody because you're like, hey man, you could be my boo thing, like that'd be good. And maybe you're looking at somebody and you're like, I stay single a little bit longer. Like, we'll see how this goes. I get it. But if they don't have godly character, forget it. Because guess what? If they're not going to obey God now, while they're single or while they're dating you, what makes you think that they would obey God when you're married? Seriously. Verse 4, let's go ahead. We're only going 7 verses tonight, if it lets you know of anything. She says, take me away with you. Let us hurry. Let the king bring me into his chambers. Basically, what she's saying is, it is very nice to be with you. They're saying it's a privilege. It's a right. Have you guys ever been in a relationship that you knew wasn't going to last? Yeah? You ever been in a relationship that you knew wasn't right? Listen, I knew a lot of my high school, my middle school, my elementary school. Let's be real. I was a player in 4th grade. I'm joking. But I knew they weren't right because I was attracted to these people for the wrong reasons. Some of them had terrible character. And let me tell you, it's really important to have good friends because your good friend can say, hey man, come here for a minute. I'm just kidding. You don't have to. Come here. What are you doing? That girl is crazy. You better leave. I'm just being real. You see, some of them had horrible characters, and everybody else will tell you, hey man, that person is not right for you. You gotta listen to the people around you. Anybody relate to that? Been in a bad relationship? Verse 5. Dark am I, yet lovely, daughters of Jerusalem. This is her talking again. Dark like the tents of Kedar, like the curtain tents of Solomon. This woman is saying, I know my worth and I know who I am. She's kind of stunting on herself a little bit. It's important to pump yourself up just a wee bit every now and then. She's saying, hey, I'm attractive. But she's saying, I got a little physical drawback. Just a little thing. Verse 6, she says, do not stare at me because I'm dark. I am darkened by the sun. My mother's sons were angry with me, and they made me take care of the vineyards. My own vineyard I had to neglect. What she was saying is, my skin is a little damaged. How many people care about your skin? Who's got a skincare routine? Let's be real. Come on. Yeah. Hit me up with a YouTube tutorial. No, I'm joking. You see, a woman's skin was one of her most prized features. I think it still is, right? Ladies, you care about your skin? Yeah? They don't cover it up as much. Back then, they used to cover their whole bodies because it was important to them to keep all of that away from the sun. They didn't have sunblock. So they had to find natural ways to do it. I think practically, if you get nothing else from relationships, you could look at this verse and go home and somebody's like, what did you talk about? And you could say, I know to wear sunblock. And let me tell you, being in Arizona, being up here with the elevation, wear sunblock, okay? For nothing else. Maybe you didn't get anything about the relationships. Wear sunblock, okay? She's saying my skin is burned, right? I didn't take care of my skin. And she tells us why. Her brothers were angry and made her take care of all the vineyards. And in doing so, she actually neglected her own vineyard, her own body. She worked and worked and worked and actually didn't even take care of her own body. But if you look deeper, you notice that there is a beauty that surpasses her skin. Because the reason her skin is burned was because she obeyed the authority above her. Back then, there was a hierarchy, and guys and girls were different. Like, let's be real, like it just was. And so for her brothers to tell her what to do, that was law. She could have bucked up against it. She could have said, hey, man, no, I'm not doing that. I mean, you ever had your older brother tell you what to do? Come on. I'm joking. But the reason her skin is burned is because she actually obeyed the authority above her. So guys, I'm going to talk to you for a little bit. Listen, if you are dating a girl who's not respectful to her father and mother, if you're dating a girl who can't get along with her friends, always got problems with everybody, just everywhere you go, she's like, hold my earrings. I fight you, and my boyfriend will fight you too. And you're like, I did not say anything about this, right? If you have somebody who's that disrespectful, what makes you think that she would treat you with respect? Listen, notice that her physical appearance is what is downplayed like the man's is. He was beautiful, he was attractive and all that, but she said it doesn't matter because I care about your character. I care about your heart. I care about the things that are etched inside of you. And she's saying, listen, I know that I'm not the prettiest, but I got a good heart. She said, I got good character. I know who I am. Character is the most important. She was respectful. She was a hard worker. She was a servant. She was obedient to the authority above her. This is what is important. So I have just 3 things that I want to go ahead and throw up on the screens. You go to the next slide. Listen, this is good to write down too. When a guy or girl is ready to date or pursue in marriage, when are you ready? A lot of times, how many people have that question? When am I ready to start dating? When am I ready to start dating seriously? When do I know when to get married? When do I know to do all of these things? It's these 3. First, you have a silhouette in your mind of the kind of person that you won't settle anything less than for. Not gonna settle. Because a lot of people miss this first thing from the jump. They don't settle for anything. So they got their head on a swivel all the time. And guess what? That's why dating culture is the way that it is. Because you could be dating somebody that you really, really like, dating somebody that you know you guys remember Manny and Rango from Youth Convention a couple years back? Yeah, maybe, yeah. I'm sure if you saw him, you would. He says it like this. Listen, you can have somebody check 8 of your 10 boxes. But there's always this thing, because of the way dating culture is here in America, where you can have somebody check 8 out of the 10 boxes. And you're like, yeah, but what if there's somebody out there who can check all 10? They could date, they could check 9, and you're like, okay, but there's one box. Maybe I can find somebody who checks all 10. Be okay. Be okay with understanding where your markers are. Be okay with them not checking every single box, but you best believe that you have 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 boxes that under no circumstances you compromise on. Macy checks all my boxes, just so you know. Because I like girls with blonde hair and blue eyes and all that stuff. And so literally, like, you can go back. Like, I think Macy, and I don't know why I'm doing this, but Macy was having a conversation with my mom, and she was like, "You're perfect." And she's like, "Oh, thank you." Like, she goes, No, seriously, this is his ex-girlfriend. And this, I'm like, "Mom, stop it." And literally, they were all like blonde hair, blue eyed, like all the, Macy's like, "Oh, you definitely have a type. Okay, I understand now." But listen, in the grand scheme of things, if I found somebody who didn't have blonde hair and blue eyes, thank you that I did. Okay. But if I didn't, is that really what's important? No, it's a preference for sure. Write it down for sure. But that can maybe be compromised on. But can I have somebody who can't help me in my calling? And I'm not talking about just being, listen, if you are called to ministry, which there's a lot of people who are called to be missionaries and be pastors in this youth group, okay? Congratulations, you're awesome. Do not date and do not marry somebody so that they can elevate your ministry, okay? Do not ever do that. Macy does a lot of really cool things around the church. I don't care. I mean that in a good way. I don't care. That sounds terrible. I'm sorry. I don't care about that. That if she quit producing services and she quit doing all the work that she does in the church, I'd still love her to death. If she said, "Hey, I don't want to do youth ministry as much anymore," I would say, "Well, can you please come?" But I wouldn't mind. Don't date somebody for that. There are some things on your list that you can't compromise over. Number 1, have a silhouette in your mind. Number 2, know the things that you will not do. Again, have those 6 or 7 boxes out of your 10 that you know for a fact I'm not doing. I'm not touching it. I'm not giving it over. I'm not erasing it. I'm not marking it out. Nothing. It's not changing. If you can't meet this, done. Let me give you one. They gotta love Jesus. Come on, like, let's be real. If they don't, listen, my parents, my mom's a Christian, my dad's not. They make it work. It's great. They have a great marriage. They're amazing parents. They're amazing husbands and wives. I was talking to my mom. She's an empty nester now. And I was like, "Hey, like, how you feeling?" She's like, "We're having the most fun we've ever had in our marriage." I'm like, "That's amazing." Let me also tell you, it's been hard. And that's not a knock on my dad either. That's not. Just because he's not a Christian. Like, I'm just saying, there are some things that you should not compromise in, okay? Third, this is important. Please write this down. If you only want to write one thing down, write this down. Be willing to be single. Be willing to be single, because there's a lot of people, once again, in dating culture who cannot be single. How many people know somebody in your school or somebody in your class or somebody in your friend group that cannot be single? Just not happy with being single ever at any time. They're like, I think that Jake is cheating on me, but I'm gonna date him for another week because I gotta find somebody else to go to. Right? Well, you're like, why don't just break up with him? He cheated on you. Well, but then I'd be single, right? Like, you're like, crazy. Stage interventions, okay? No, I'm joking. I don't know why that cracked the way it did. Okay, last verse. There's still a lot more that I want to explain in it, but it's the last verse. It says, "Tell me, you whom I love." This is, again, her speaking to him. "Tell me, you whom I love, where you graze your flock, where you rest your sheep at midday. Why should I be like the veiled women beside the flocks of your friends?" Okay, here we go. I get it. She's talking at the end when she says, "Why should I be like a veiled woman beside the flocks of your friends?" She's talking about what the equivalent today would be a sex worker, a prostitute, somebody who would do that for a money or live their life and make that a lifestyle, somebody who essentially would whore themselves out. And I know, everybody's eyes just went crazy. I promise we don't get into anything. It's all from this biblical perspective, but it's important that you know that she's talking about this because she says, why should I be like that beside the flocks of your friends? She's saying, I love you, but there's some things that these other girls are gonna do, I will not do. There are some things that you might experience. There are some things that maybe you have that I'm not gonna do. And I just want you to know, I'm not gonna do that. The woman is saying, I love this man, but I will not do things that compromise my relationship with God. I will not defile myself. I would rather remain single than do the things that these women do. That's what she's saying. And let me just clarify this. Men can do the same thing. Let's be real. Some of y'all need to just chill. If you have these three things, you might be ready to consider being in a relationship. Guys, you have to pick a woman like this woman. Respectful, hardworking, loving Jesus, servant, humble, kind, loving, honest. Someone that you can instinctively give a good pet name to. Pet name. What's up, boo thing? Have you guys seen the trend on TikTok where people are trying new pet names on their wives and it's like some of them are hilarious and they're trying to freak? Yeah, it's pretty great. Sometimes every now and then I'll do that. I don't get too crazy. There was one time, I don't know. I don't even know if this is true, but it sounds like something I would do, so I'll say it anyway. There's sometimes Macy will be around the house. I'm like, what's up, honey buns? She's like, no, don't do that. Don't do that. Don't do that. Never again. I'm like, okay, baby. All right, sounds good. And then, listen, God forbid I use Macy. She's like, I am your wife. I'm not Macy. I'm Macy to everybody else. I am not Macy to you, which is hilarious. Listen, I've noticed with bad couples, hey, listen, I'm going in on the guys and girls here, okay? Just so you know, it's everybody can get some, okay? Everybody's getting smoke. But I'm gonna talk specifically to my guys. When you have a mean spouse, a mean wife, somebody who's not very pleasant to be around, you can't really give them a good pet name. I mean, what do you call a woman or a man? I'll even bring it out, but what do you call a woman or a man who has a personality of an ogre? Okay, all right, yeah. Stinky, Shrek, all right, you guys are already loaded up and ready to go, good job. A couple of years ago, 4 years ago now, I got to interview for a job in Prescott Valley, Arizona to be the youth pastor at Lifepointe Church. And one of the questions I was like, hey, who's running the youth ministry now? And Pastor Ryan at the time, he was like, oh, well, we have this girl, her name's Macy. She's our interim youth pastor. She's been really holding it down. You'll get a chance to meet her. I'm like, okay, cool. I went home and I got off the call and they were like, who's running the youth ministry over there? I was like, well, I think it's this girl named Macy. And they were like, really? I'm like, yeah, Ryan said something about her, she's a pastor's daughter or whatever. And they're like, really? I had one friend in Kentucky, his name's Mike, ironically. He was like, she's youth ministry? I was like, yeah. He goes, pastor's daughter? He goes, yeah. He goes, I'll see you in a year, you'll be married. I was like, I will not. No way. And then I flew out here for my interview last round. I made it through 4 rounds. Come on, y'all. Cream of the crop you got. No, I'm just joking. Made it through 4 rounds, sat in what used to be the couch room. It's the offices now, it's the J office. And sat there and they marched the whole staff. There were like 20 people on staff when I interviewed here. It was crazy. And there was an open spot right next to Pastor Mike. And I'll never forget it because you were just a hair bit late, or you were doing something else, you were finishing something. And so she came in kind of behind everybody else. And I went, who is that? Oh, that's Macy. Oh, no, right? I am interviewing for a job. I'm not getting fired, okay? Not doing it. Ironically, she did the same thing. She was very curious about this new youth pastor who was coming in. And then she saw a video of me, and then she said, nope, absolutely not. I'm not gonna be a trope. If you know Macy, you know Macy. She's like, I am not going to be a stereotype. No way, he's short. Oh, seriously, look, everybody, look back. Exactly. She thought I was gonna have a country accent and not wear shoes. Hey. Macy was like so hell-bent on no way am I dating this guy at all. And then camp happened in 2019. Macy totally blocked me at camp. I'm gonna be real. But it was at camp, and then it was at Fine Arts Nationals in Orlando, Florida, where I was able to notice her attractiveness. But what really caught me the most was the fact that she loves Jesus, the fact that she serves, the fact that she's not lazy, she's not unfaithful, she has amazing character. Macy, I love you so much. Listen, when eventually Macy and I have kids, I want my daughters to be like Macy. If I ever have a son, Lord help me, because I know how crazy I was. But if I ever have a son, man, I would want my son to marry somebody like Macy, because she's amazing in every way. Let me tell you something. Healthy attraction has more to do with character than appearance. Way more to do with character and appearance than appearance. See, this man and this woman in Song of Solomon saw beyond the outward appearances. He was a really attractive dude, and she says, hey, I'm attractive, but I got some things wrong with me. And yet both of them are able to see past whatever physical appearances they had and actually able to see the heart and the character of who they are. And that is what brought attraction. Let me tell you, if you find it anywhere else, you will not be in a good spot. Healthy attraction has more to do with the character than the appearance. It's important. So listen, one last thing, and then I'll call the worship team up. But if you guys want to start a fire, how do you do it? Light a match, right? Take a bunch. When you want to build a fire, you have to be intentional, right? Especially around Arizona. I didn't know there was a thing as a fire ban before I moved out here. Because guess what? We can burn anything in Kentucky because there's so much moisture there. Nobody cares. I saw more trash cans on fire in Kentucky in random backyards. It's wild, dude. And now I'm in Arizona and I'm like, go back to Kentucky and I'm like, there's a fire! I see the smoke! Macy's like, it's fine, chill. It just rained yesterday, it's okay. No, it's not. Arizona's ruined me. It's especially important here in Arizona, right? You have to be intentional with how you build a fire. Because if you just start throwing random sticks and brush and all this stuff, and then you say, here's a match, you're gonna start a fire. Yeah. You might burn the rest of Arizona down. You're gonna start a fire. You see, this is why character matters. And we're going to go ahead and go into this. And I need you guys to understand as we close tonight, we're talking about it, okay? You thought we were waiting until week 3 or week 4. We're going into it tonight. Because you can get a massive pile of wood, pour 4 gallons of gasoline on it, and there's going to be something that looks exactly like a fire, but it's out of control, and it's crazy, and it's wild, and you cannot fix it once you've started it. It takes a while to fix it, I should say. Because this is exactly what living a relationship out without character, and I'm specifically talking about premarital sex, talking about having sex in your relationship when you're not married, is exactly like building a fire. You're gonna look at something when you're involved in that. You're gonna look, and people will look at it and they'll say, oh, yeah, that's a relationship. Oh, yeah, they love each other. Oh, yeah, there's that. On the outside, it's gonna look like a fire, but it's out of control. There's no intentionality behind it, and it's gonna take a lot of work to put it out and to repair it and to rebuild it. When it comes to building relationships that have character, specifically when it comes to your physical attraction and what you do with it, it is important that you are intentional. Because all marriage is, all relationships are a fire that are burning on embers of love. You have to be able to keep it and tend to it and fight for it and be able to keep it intentional. Because if your relationship is founded on physical appearance, if it's founded on physical appearance, if it's founded on a lack of character, if it's founded, I'm gonna say it, if it's founded on sex, if that is the whole reason that you are in a relationship, it's not gonna end well, guys. And I'm not even talking about there was a whole thing when I was your age where it was like, if you do this, you're just ruined forever. They used to come up with really whack illustrations. Like they would take a tube of toothpaste. They'd be like, try to get the toothpaste back in. You can't do it. You're broken and you can't be fixed, right? That's not it at all. God can restore anything and everything. But it does take time and it does take a lot of work and it takes a very painful walking this thing out, okay? And so if your relationship is founded on all of those things, it's gonna end up in trouble. Did you guys know that 50% of marriages fail? 50%. And listen, that is all marriages. So that is second and third marriages and fourth marriages and fifth marriages and sixth marriages, all marriages, 50%. First time marriages are 80. And I get it. That statistic means a lot of you have had this happen. A lot of you might be going through it right now. Let me speak to those who've experienced that or who are walking through that. The reason why we go through this is not to shame your parents. It's not to shame you for being in a family like that. It's not to look at it and just say, you are a statistic and that's all you are. The reason why we do this is because you have an opportunity over these next few weeks as you learn, as you grow, as you dive in, read the scriptures for yourself. You have an opportunity to draw a line in the sand and say, not me, not my family, not who I'm gonna be, not who my spouse is gonna be. We're gonna do this thing right. You have that opportunity. And I don't wanna ever pit parents against each other. I'm never here trying to do that. I get it, man. Things can be crazy. So I'm not just saying that statistic to just throw it out there and say, oh yeah, this is your family, or this is that family, or this, that's not what I'm doing. Those things don't last. But if you stay attracted to character, if you stay attracted to godly character, that's the way that you can have a long-lasting relationship. And guess what? People can lose their character too. So make sure you're always working on it. for yourself and for your spouse. I don't know how long I'm going. I'm sorry. I just feel like it's important. One last thing. I'm going to be really transparent, okay? I really deal a lot with anxiety. I deal a lot with my own self-perception, especially as a husband. It's true. I deal a lot with those things. My dad is an amazing dad. My dad didn't have a dad to raise him. My dad did everything on his own. Gave me an amazing model. If you're watching this, Dad, I love you. Thank you. But I am worried and I fear that I'm not going to live up to the things that were previously in that generation. And then you look at Macy's family. John Lutman and Mike Cool, are you kidding me? Come on, these guys are amazing, right? You guys love those guys, they're awesome. Even if Pastor John couldn't make it with Encore or whatever, we eat hot dogs later. I look at them and I deal with it. The reason why I say this, the reason why I say to work on your character and make sure that you're working on it is time and time again, Macy has looked at me and said, is it worth it for me? For you to do this, for you to make the changes, for you to work on yourself, for you to be able to go through it. I don't care if you want to do it. Do you love me enough? And when you get into a marriage and when you get into a serious relationship, you have to be able to lay yourself down and build your character up, even if you don't feel like it. To be able to say, this is what I'm going to do. This is how I'm going to do it. And I'm not going to compromise. If the worship team would go ahead and come on up. You see, movies are not real. Pop culture is a lie. You know, the fakest form of television is reality TV. The reality is this, that not everybody is a supermodel. Newsflash. I know I am, but joking. And not everybody all of the time builds everything in their life on sex. Doesn't happen. So don't buy into those lies. If there's one thing that I can leave you with tonight, it's that if you want a working relationship, have the character of Christ, work on it, and find somebody else who does as well. And I promise, as long as you can maintain that in your relationship, and as long as you can maintain that personally for yourself, you will be in good shape. Because to have godly character means that you have to stay connected with God. As long as you're in that, and as long as he's in the center of everything that you do, you'll be A-okay. It'll be hard, it'll be difficult, it'll be rough, but you will be okay in the end. And so, with every head bowed and every eye closed, I want to make tonight's response simple. We're going to be going over the next, like I said, 6 or 7 weeks on this. So there's a lot to talk about. There's a lot of things to talk about. And so I want to make sure that each response is tailored to the very specific things that we're talking about. So with every head bowed and every eye closed, tonight, if you would just be open and honest and say, you know what? Personally, my character is a little off. Personally, there's something in my character, and it could be a tiny thing. But there is something in my character that is actually causing me to not, there's actually something in my character that's causing me to not match up with what some of the things you're talking about. There's some things in my character that if I was honest, man, you probably wouldn't even believe it. the cool thing about all of what we're going to be talking about, the cool thing about tonight is that it's never too late. You can always make that first step. You can always make that first turn to God. And so tonight, if you would say, man, my character is kind of out of whack, it's been misaligned, it's been out of sorts, but I want to return back, and I want to have a character that honors God and stays close to his character and his nature. I want a relationship with him that resembles that. As a single person, as a dating person, I want that for my life. If that's you, would you just raise your hand? Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Maybe you're in this spot and you're like, man, my relationships have been modeled terribly. And if that's the case, maybe you're in a spot where you're like, I just need restoration. My family and my relationships, or in the friendships even that I have, because a lot of this stuff is even applicable and applies to your friendships as well. And so tonight, if you would say, I just need restoration in some of these areas, I want to pray for you as well. And I want to pray, and then I want to have a time of response, because I believe that it's important to have that. So with every head bowed and every eye closed, Lord Jesus, we just come to you tonight humbly, knowing that this is something that you care about because it's in your word. Even when people shy away from it, even when there are so many things that seem like we shouldn't talk about it, or we should just put our heads underneath the sand and just not deal with any of it. Lord, it's in your word, so it's important to you that we be able to catch this. So Lord, I pray for those of us who are dealing with character issues, not character flaws, but character issues where it's just out of alignment with you. Lord, I pray that we would be able to draw near to you, to learn your heart more and more. Lord, I pray that we would live out a godly character in our personal lives and the relationships that we have and the friendships that we have and the way that we interact with our families. Lord, I pray that you would be able to do this. And Lord, if there's any sort of restoration that needs to happen in the relationships or the friendships around us, and Lord, if there's any forgiveness that we need to ask for, Lord, I pray that in these moments of response, we would be able to come to you confidently, knowing that it's not just a shameful thing, but knowing that it's not just something that we can't undo or that you can't undo. Lord, I pray that we would just come humbly, that we would be able to restore, that you would be able to restore us. Lord Jesus, we ask that you would allow us to live out a godly character in everything that we do. We love you. We thank you for your word. Lord, we ask that you would just be glorified in the remainder of the time that we have left to respond. In Jesus' name. Everybody said, amen. Amen. We're going to go into a time of response.